The father has died in action before that. Very sad story, very kitsch story. Okay, that's all for this film. You want to say something on your remarks? Nothing special?
I find it striking that in every movie that you showed us so far is the question about Japanese Americans and the German and the Italian Americans. But like, was that such a big question at that time?
It's a very big question. It's a crucial question because it's at the core of the difference between this war, I mean Second World War, in Europe and in this region. Yeah. Here, after Pearl Harbor, it is clearly staged, I would say staged, and perceived by the protagonists of the war, namely mostly by the Americans on one side, the Japanese on the other, as not only as a war which has to be very bitterly fought, but as a total war. And as a total war, it is a war of races. It's a war of races. The war for the Americans, the war in Europe, has never been that. Okay, they were fighting against Nazi ideology, against racial prejudice, against Nazi anti-Semitism, but they never considered the Germans as racial enemies, and this for very obvious reasons. They are Caucasian, all of them. But the war, and on this issue, okay, I mentioned the book I constantly refer to. It's called by a book by an American author who is called John Dower, D-O-W-E-R, John Dower, and it's called Race and War in the Pacific. This is the basic work on it, on this issue. And he published a lot of pictures, of caricatures, which were published in American newspapers, magazines, so representing the Japanese soldiers, but the Japanese in general, as mostly monkeys. And from the Japanese side, the American, rather same, let's say, kind of animalization process of the enemy, but rather as insects, flies, and like that. So this is the general context, and this is why this issue, why us, the scenes you see in the three films, why us American Japanese and not the Germans and the Italians, this is what is at stake in this question. And there is no answer, because the answer is implicit. It's something you cannot say, but it's like that. So this is a very good, okay, I insist on this because from a European angle, from the European point of view, this is completely erased, this is forgotten. What we see, of course, from the European angle is, okay, Nazi ideology, but it's not exactly as simple as that.
What about the question about these movies, of course, are about Americans in as Asia Pacific region. But again, Americans didn't actually provide too much military support in the early days of the Second World War into the mainland Europe. They were providing like these Japanese or American Japanese forces to the Africa, where they fought against the Nazi Italy army and in Italy. But it was actually in the hot pot of America didn't provide any troops, military support to the hot pot of Europe, which is like the essential place, the mainland Europe, where Nazis were conquering. And in that sense, like came the question to me that they made these references between Japanese Americans and the Italian German Americans, but actually it was only but in 1944 when the states provided actual military troops to the mainland, the main continent of Europe, where Nazis had had a great progress. They were just like supporting troops in Italy or in the North Africa. That was actually the case. So I was thinking about the fact that it has been raised up in all of these movies, this question about Japanese Americans, Italian Americans, German Americans, but is there anything like pictures, the involvement of the US in actually in the mainland Europe scenes?
It's the involvement of the United States. So, okay, I'm not a historian, so I just answer on general issues. But this is clear, this thing is clear. The involvement of the United States in the war in the Pacific and Eastern Asia and in Europe was very different. I mean, took place in very different conditions. Why? Because, okay, Pearl Harbor was absolutely clear, an aggression. And after that, the United States, as we hear in Hell to Eternity, the speech by President Roosevelt, okay, no choice. The United States have to declare war to Japan because it's an open aggression. The context of the American involvement in the war in Europe is completely different because the United States have not been under attack from the Germans, of course, from the Italians, of course. So it took a lot of time, like exactly the same way. It was the same way. It happened the same way during the First World War. You have to remember that the United States took side during the First World War only in 1917. So that is 1 year before the end of the war and 3 years after the beginning of the war. Why? For different reasons. One of the main reasons is that the German lobby in the United States always was very powerful. I mean, lobby not at all in negative terms. It's like that because so many people in the United States are from German origin and mainly among, I would say, elites, intellectual, political, cultural elite, etc. And it was the same. It happened the same way during the Second World War. At the beginning, the American public was extremely reluctant to see the country involved in the war in Europe. So all this had to be overwhelmed. And if you take Hollywood, I think I already talked about that last semester. In Hollywood, at the beginning of the war, the German lobby was very powerful, and so extremely hostile to any involvement of Hollywood films any commitment to the anti-fascist side. One of the reasons was the business with them, Germany as a market. Germany was a very good market for Hollywood films. So it took time, and okay, the context was very different. And what's important for our subject here is that the definition of the enemy is completely different in both cases. And this you can check by watching war films, American war films, which take place on the European front. It's completely different. The way the German soldiers, the German officers are designed is completely different. Okay, some of them are fanatics, Nazis. Okay. But okay, most of them are. And okay, I said that previously. One of the hints are in many of these films which take place in these American or Hollywood films, war films, which take place in Europe. You have this scene which comes and comes again, where during fight or I don't know what, commando troops, somebody belonging to the Allied troops, an American, a British soldier or whatever, has to disguise himself into a German, take a German uniform and some kind of a trick or thing like that. It's in the plot. And this is very easy because it looks the same. Take the uniform, maybe he even speaks German, and so it works. It works. And this you cannot imagine in the context of the Pacific War, of course, because playing the Japanese soldier is not so easy for an American soldier.
That's another question. Is another thing I want actually checking these war movies, watching these war movies, that there's I haven't confronted any war movie from the Second World War that would have taken a stance against the submarines, because German submarines attacked the transportation ship of US and the British Army as well as passenger ships, but that doesn't have any real thought about it. Why hasn't it been presented in movies? There are some movies about the submarine fights, but they are all usually about one submarine trying to survive some big bombing or trying to chase between submarines, but it hasn't I can't recall any movie that would have actually read the question about the submarines attacking just cargo ships and passenger ships in the Atlantic seas that the Germans were really active in.
About the Pacific War, I can give you titles of almost dozens of submarine films which deal with, among others, with this issue, submarines, from torpedoes and passenger ships or things like that, as well American submarines attacking boats or ships with civilians on them, and so there are a lot. It's submarine films. As far as the war in the Pacific is concerned, it's a genre. You have a lot of, and most of them are rather boring, I would say. But I can make a list of all the famous Hollywood actors who play the role of the captain, the submarine captain. Cary Grant, Ronald Reagan, all of them. I can do this if you're interested. But okay, it's not the more, I would say, exciting war film, because it's always the same scenes. Because, you know, the submarine it's a small space, so you always see the same scenes.